Today we're going to be talking about LOWERN. Please take a moment and fill in the associated task sheet for this lesson. LOWERN is an acronym that stands for the factors that affect climate. Climate is different from weather. Take a minute and review your notes. Do you know the difference? Climate is the average temperature or weather conditions that you would expect to see, as it is an average over the last 30 years. Weather is what we see day to day. Climate is predictable, and prediction is possible. We use the acronym LOWERN, standing for latitude, ocean currents, wind, elevation, relief, and nearness to water, as the 6 factors that affect climate. So what do these all mean? The first is latitude. Latitude are the lines that run horizontally across the map. From the equator, as you go up or as you go down towards the poles, your temperature will greatly be affected. Those areas that are closer to the equator are warmer. Therefore, as latitude increases, the average annual temperature decreases. Ocean currents also greatly affect our climates in certain areas. Warm ocean currents create warm climates, where cold ocean currents create cooler climates. Here's a picture of the Gulf Stream. Down here we have Florida, here are Great Lakes, and the coast of Canada and the United States. You'll notice that there is a warm current flowing past the coast, and as a result we have warmer climates in this area. Winds and air masses. Winds that blow from the poles are cooler, and alternatively, winds that blow from the south are typically warmer. A jet stream is a fast-moving stream of air that either moves up and down through North America or different locations around the world and allows more warm air to come up or more cool air to come down. The jet stream moves north and south during the year and can greatly affect climate. Elevation has to do with the distance above the surface of sea level. So this is a diagram to show you. Down here we have sea level, and as you go up the side of a mountain, our temperatures very much decrease. So you can see up here that we have a decrease in our temperature. So as you go up a higher elevation, you're going to have the temperature decrease. We live in the troposphere, and the temperature will always decrease with elevation in this zone. So as the elevation increases, the average temperature decreases. When we're talking about relief, we need to think of a mountain. First, we must have some body of water. As that water warms up, it evaporates, cools and condenses, and wind pushes it towards the mountain. As it climbs up the mountain, it becomes cooler and cooler and cooler. And as it reaches farther up the mountain, it will start to rain, or precipitation will occur. However, the rain clouds never really make it over to this side of the mountain. So the opposite side of the mountain is often very, very dry with not a lot of vegetation. This is called relief. So on the windward side, the side closest to the body of water, we're going to have cool, moist climates. Whereas the climates on the other side, the leeward side, are going to be warm and dry. Nearness to water has to do with temperatures situated just on the coast. Here we have 2 pictures representing 2 different areas that are along the coastal lines here. We have San Francisco here, and then some inner cities over here. You'll notice that there are some major differences between these areas. For example, San Francisco has an average temperature of 64 degrees. However, if we come over here and we look at the temperatures in these areas, in Stockton, it's 86 degrees. That means that coastal areas have a moderating effect, which means that because they're beside water, their temperature does not change as rapidly as it would if you're inside a country or a province. Here we have a diagram representing 2 locations, one for Iceland and one for Russia. You'll notice that the one for Iceland is located on an island, whereas the one in Russia is located inside the country. The one in Iceland, you'll notice that there is not as big of a difference between the maximum and the minimum temperature, whereas in Russia we have a huge change in temperature. Because the area in Iceland is beside water, it has a moderating effect. We don't get the big fluctuations in our temperature. So water moderates the temperature, it makes cooler summers and warmer winters. If you look at the following graph, you'll see that we have temperature and months being represented. We have two different cities. City B is indicated by the dotted line and city A is by the solid line. You notice that city A has a huge fluctuation in its temperatures, whereas city B does not. It has a moderating effect. Therefore, we can say that city B is located near a body of water.
There are two different types of climate, continental and maritime. Continental is climate within the center of a country or a large area of land, and maritime is typically beside an ocean. The climates within inside a country or a large area of land and at the coast are very, very different. They have specific characteristics. Before we go on to talk about the characteristics of both of them, let's review what the three definitions of their characteristics actually mean. Temperature range is calculated by adding up all the average temperatures for all the months and dividing by 12. The next one is total precipitation. To get total precipitation, you're going to take all the precipitation values for every month and add them up. And finally, the distribution of precipitation. So you are going to look for what season actually has the most or least amount of precipitation. So for continental, the temperature range is always going to be greater than 25 degrees Celsius. Temperature range is going to be calculated by taking the highest temperature and minusing the lowest temperature. Remembering that if you are minusing a negative number, it becomes a positive. For maritime, the temperature range will always be less than 25 degrees Celsius. The annual precipitation in continental areas will always be less than 1,000 millimeters of rain or snow, whereas maritime, they typically have a lot more than 1,000 millimeters of rain. Distribution of precipitation for continental is typically going to be greater in the summer months, whereas maritime is typically going to be greater in the winter months. Within the two maritime regions, we have the west coast and the east coast, and there is slight differences in their precipitation distribution. The west coast, you're going to see the largest amount of precipitation happening in the winter months and the lowest happening in the summer months, whereas the east coast generally has very slight differences in their precipitation between their summer and their winter months. It's almost even across the board.